Welcome to the Lunch Pail live half hour. Woo woo. We're blue collar, those of us who show up at the Lunch Pail half hour. We do the dirty work. We're not afraid to get in the dirt. Woo woo, blue collar half hour. If you got a hard hat, wear it. Woo woo. I actually own a hard hat. I'm going to bring it on one of these episodes and show it off because it'll go good with my lunch pail. All right, lunch pail half hour. Woo woo, we're going strong. We're in the dirt. We're digging ditches. We don't look for shortcuts because that's how you do it at the lunch pail half hour. Woo woo. So the subject I was going to talk to today about was mastering pain and fear. Those are huge. If you're going to do something big in life, you got to be able to master pain and fear. You can't run from it. I was just talking a little bit to Jesse, my life coach, a little bit about some of my stories of when I ran from fear. And that is, you don't go anywheres in life if you're running from pain and fear. You just don't. I mean, when I was in junior high and high school, I got cut from almost every team that had a ball. I got cut from the basketball team, the baseball team. I couldn't make the track team. I wasn't in the top 3 in the 1320 that I was running as an 8th grader. So I remember in 10th grade, I went out for soccer because it was the only team that didn't cut, and I wanted to play a sport, but I ran from my fear. And then I remember in 10th grade also another guy who got cut from the baseball team when I did. Instead of like taking up a sport where they don't cut and running from his fear of being cut, he went out, he practiced all year, and then he went back out for the baseball team as a sophomore in high school and made the team. And I was like so amazed, I couldn't believe he did it. Well, I couldn't even make the track team as an 8th grader, couldn't make the top 3. So then I'm playing soccer as a 10th grader, not even any good, no passion for it. I'd never played it before. Actually, I kind of sucked at it. And then I remember though, I saw him go back out for baseball, and he made it because he practiced all year. And so I really had a passion for track. I like to run. I used to run to school and back in grammar school and junior high. It was really cool in junior high when you run to school, but I just liked running, man. And so I ran to school both ways. So in after playing soccer in 10th grade and being really terrible at it, in 11th grade, I went back out for track because I had grown a foot. All my friends were running track. I was much, and so I went back out. It took a lot of courage to go out for track because back then I used to think once you're cut from a team or you don't make a team, that's it. You're done for your life. You just go on to another sport or something. And so but as a junior, I went back out for track, and I ran the half mile and the mile. In the half mile, I not only made the team, the top 3, but I was in the top 5 in the county meet. I was actually kind of good at track, And so the lesson I learned there was that don't run from the freaking pain. Don't run from the pain of being cut, And I did the same thing in high school, after high school. I was afraid. I was just always afraid of stuff. And after high school, I would do like liquid courage, Let's see if there's a question there before I get into this story. What step in mastering pain, physical, emotional, or mental? You know what the big step in mastering pain and going, and it's going right at it. It's not messing around. It's like you go right at it, man. Whatever's scaring you, you figure out some way that you can face it, I was telling the story where, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar, I don't know, I was around 30, and which I am that age now in my head. So about the same age, first time I was 30. And and he had talked about, or in his book, about facing your fears, and how that's how you get big goals and dreams, is you got to go through those fears. And so I wrote down a list of about 30 fears, and I went right at every one of them. I went after all those fears. And you know what? All of a sudden I started having bigger goals I was going after, because if I had the courage to go after these fears, then I had the courage also to go after big goals. And so I started my own company at like 23 years old with credit cards, a chain of video stores. And, so I wasn't going to let fear stop me anymore. It had stopped me all the way like in junior high and the beginning of high school. And I wasn't going to let it stop me anymore. I was going to attack anything that scares me. Let's see. Another question here. What's the first step to mastering pain, physical, emotional, or mental? The first step. So when I wrote out that list at Tony Robbins, or his book or the seminar, I can't remember which one I learned it at, but I went for the easy frickin' fears, right? I went for the easy fears first. I can't even remember exactly what they were, but they weren't a big deal. And then I got down to where they were bigger and bigger, and I know I wanted to speak in public, and that really scared the crap out of me. And so what I did to learn to speak in public is I went to a Dale Carnegie course, because in front of Dale Carnegie, you were only talking in front of 30 people, and because even right before this, when I was at this Tony Robbins seminar, I knew that speaking in public was a huge fear. And so I had told myself, by the time I'm on the fourth day and you feel all great, you've walked on fire, you feel like you're the king. And then I said, okay, I'm just going to ask a question on the last day of this seminar. I'm going to raise my hand up and ask a question, because there was like 700 people there. I go, this will be my record by far of the most people I spoke in front of. And so I go to raise my arm, and my arm was like a lead weight. It was totally stuck to my side. I couldn't get it up because the fear was so huge. Even in front of a hugely supportive crowd, I couldn't even ask one question. And so I was like embarrassed when I left there. I was, I couldn't believe I couldn't get my hand up to ask a question. Oh, how many yards did I swim today? I ran today, Mr. Lennell Clouds. Woo, woo. I've been doing some cross training. So I've been running. Anyway, so I go right at those fears, and that's what I'm encouraging you to do, is to go out your fears. So I wrote them out, and I went after the easier ones, and then eventually, like just 3 or 4 years ago, I finally finished off all these fears, which was like jumping out of a plane, bungee jumping, really scary, really, really scary stuff for me. But I got it in, so... And speaking of how many yards I'm swimming, that's because I'm taking on the English Channel. I didn't make my qualifying swim this year for the channel, but I'll be back. I never quit. And you got to do a 6-hour in San Francisco Bay. I had a huge fear of swimming in big, deep water, rough water with sharks. Now, I mean, we do it all the time, in San Francisco Bay. You're jumping in, it's cold, it's rough, it's dark, there's sharks. People will tell you that there's sharks. I haven't seen one yet, though, but I believe they're probably in there somewheres. But I more think that once you get outside that Golden Gate, it seems like the Golden Gate's kind of a force field for the sharks. Once you go past that gate, then it's like, then sometimes I hear Jaws music. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so anyway, let's see. So I got another question here. Can you share a time where you were in extreme pain and walk us through what went through your head and to keep going? I was just telling this story the other day, and it's in the movie On My Life, where I had trench foot at like 70 miles in the Arrowhead race, and I'd got my feet wet. I didn't change my socks, really is what it comes down to at the first checkpoint. So my feet were wet. They got all clammy. I ended up with just blisters all over my feet. Trench foot is what it's called. the skin was peeling all the way off. And I went into the checkpoint, and there's a doctor there, and they're popping my blisters, and he's looking at my foot, and he goes, "Hey, I wouldn't go on with this. I would not go on with this trench foot that you have." I said, "Is that an order, or is that a recommendation?" Because he's like the doctor of the race, and he says, "It's a recommendation, Bill." I said, "Well, put those socks back on, because I'm going out. I'm not taking that recommendation." And I just went back out out the door. I was so determined to finish. I made it like 24 more miles. I think I made it to 98 miles. And then I then I slept, and my feet outswelled my shoes, and I couldn't even stand up. It was like level 10 pain. It was so horrendous. And I ended up having to drop. I just couldn't even do it. But what I found out later when I did 7 crossings of the Grand Canyon later that year, and I had the same thing happen. I had the trench foot happen, because you're going in and out of water and stuff. And I think it was mostly because I'm soaking myself so much with water when I would get to any hose bibs or anything that I soaked my feet, and I ended up with trench foot there. But the thing that I learned there was my buddy Danny was there, and I said, "Man, I got blisters all over my feet. I got trench foot again." And he says, "Bill, keep going with that." Danny's super experienced, and he's super tough. He said, "Just keep walking. It'll take 20 minutes, and your feet will go numb." And he was right. I walked for like 20 minutes, and then my feet went numb, and I was able to finish that crazy thing, that 7 crossings. And even on the last crossing I had, or last couple crossings, I literally couldn't even breathe. I had like dust pneumonia, it's called. I looked it up afterwards, but I'd been breathing in all that dust down there. There's dust moving around all over the place. I've been breathing it in for like 5 days, and I just was wheezing and felt like I was breathing through a straw. Let's see if there's another question. So yeah, you just keep pushing through the pain. Unless you're gonna really hurt yourself bad, that's the only way, you got to get a big goal or dream. You can't be afraid of once a little bit of pain pops up. You got to be able to keep pushing and pushing through that pain to make that big goal. So when I came up that other side of the Grand Canyon for the 7th time, I was pretty damn happy about it, man. I couldn't walk for about 3 days, but I was happy, man. I pushed through that pain of my feet. I pushed through the pain of the dust pneumonia, and I'd made it, so... But sometimes I don't make it, and I do all that stuff. And then you're just proud that you're in the arena, and you're fighting the fight, and you're doing everything you can to do it, Here's another question. What's the difference between real danger and false fear, and how do you tell them apart? Ooh, that's a good question. Because because you know what fear stands for? False evidence appearing real. And that's screwed in my mind. Usually fear is like, it's just crap. It's really not real. There's usually safety precautions. Like even if you're up on a mountain and you're on a really steep part, you fall, it looks like you're gonna die, but we're all roped together. So if one of us goes down, we all dive into the side with our ice axe, in self-arrest, which I've done several times. And, and it's not as dangerous as it is in your mind. That's the false evidence appearing real. So that's what, so to me, there is, it's hard to tell them apart, man. But you have to ask yourself, is this real or is this not real? Put the facts down, We're roped together. I remember when I climbed Denali the first time, I was so afraid of it. And like 6 people had died the year before. And I was like, shit, man, these people die up here, And then I looked it up, and like all 6 were solo climbers. So logically in my head, how I dealt with it, I said, hey, we're all roped together. These guys are solo climbers. Because what happens when you're solo, if you fall or slip, you don't have a rope to catch you. You can go right down the mountain, right in a crevice. I mean, it's just, I asked somebody, because they go right by, they walk right by us, solo. And I said, why do these guys do it? Why do they go up there solo? And she said, or it was, I can't remember if it was a guy or a girl, but she said, but he said, they go by for two reasons, Bill. One is that they're looking for the next biggest challenge. They're going to climb it solo. The second reason is nobody will take them up anymore, so they have to go by themselves. I don't know if that one's true or not, but I really like that one. Woo woo! Because I'd watch those guys when they go by me, when they go by our team, and they poke these sticks in the, they're poking sticks in, trying to find the crevices. And I've fallen 25 feet down in one. I've fallen in ones where this last time I went up, I was stuck. It was right under my arms and I was stuck like, for, I don't know, 20 minutes, man, before they could get me out. Those crevices are not to be screwed with without a rope, in my opinion. Let's see if we got another question. I have a 240-pound bike this Saturday. I start at midnight and go from South Dakota, 240-mile bike ride across Minnesota to, however, the quality index is red from wildfire smoke. Go or not go? Okay, you're going to make me tell another story. I was living in Santa Rosa and there were fires all over the place. We were really, that was when they were evacuating the whole town. I got evacuated twice and I went to go for a run and it was super smoky everywhere. And it was like they had those, whatever that warning is not to go out, in the air, and I just went out, man. I went out and I got an hour run in and I coughed all day. I coughed all night, but I got my running. I wasn't going to let that damn fire stop me. Woo, woo. You could probably, if I was smart, maybe I would have wore one of those masks, but I wasn't smart. I just ran. I mean, I was like wheezing at the end, but I knew my body would get that crap out eventually, and I got it in. I don't ever like to give in to anything, Mother Nature or whatever it is, if I can help it, man. If I can pull it off, I'm going to go out there and do it, So good luck with that one. I might wear a mask. I might wear one of those, like the old, whatever those doctor masks are called. Anyway, good question. I love it. Woo, woo, show up and suffer. Woo, if you do it, let us know next week that you went out and rode. Like I said, it felt like I smoked a pack of cigarettes. I never smoked a pack of cigarettes, but if I did, I'm sure it was what I felt like. Okay. Might have it on for 15 hours. Maybe just go for a short ride and see how it goes. 15 hours might be a long one. Oh, that's what you're saying. You're going to do that whole ride. Wow. Go or not go, man. I don't know. You got a phone number for somebody you can call in case you get smoked out? I did when I got accepted into RAM. I remember I got accepted into RAM, this race across America. And I was so excited that I'd heard about this ride up. I was living in Santa Rosa. It was north of Santa Rosa. And it was God, what's the darn, I'm down in Marin now. So I haven't been up there doing this ride in a long time. But it was called a double. And it was hugely hilly, like woo, 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 woo. And I remember I went out, like I worked that day and I went out and I said, I'm going to ride that ride. Double Skag Springs. That's what it's called, Skag Springs Road. And I did a double. So I went all the way out. To the coast. It was like, 75 miles out to the coast. I got there and I was exhausted. I was so tired. They didn't have Uber back then. They didn't have none of that stuff. I was divorced. I didn't have anybody to call. Probably wouldn't have called anyway, make you tougher. And I rode all the way back. And it took me till I was planning on it was going to be something that I would get done, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. I ended up finishing 4 in the morning or something. But you know what? When you do those events and you take on those, especially in training, as well as in a race too, And if you complete it, man, that is a big confidence builder. That was huge for me that I got out there and did that thing. Even though I was like thinking, what am I doing out here at like 3:30 in the morning riding up this super steep hill in pitch black? I didn't even have the right kind of lighting. I had some temporary lights that like flashlights. It was not a good, it wasn't good, but I did it anyway. So yeah, if you end up like breathing smoke out of your ears, smoke coming out of your ears from doing your ride, good job. Woo woo. Let's see. Most people wait for pain to go away before taking action. What do unstoppable people do differently? Pain for me is just another barrier. It's just, I've had so much pain, especially in bad water. Back, if you go back 10 years ago when I first did my first couple bad waters, they didn't have these fancy shoes and socks. Everybody got blisters like really, really bad, and they would pop your blisters, and you just kept going, man. You were dealing with a lot of pain, and then like I said, hopefully your feet would go numb so you wouldn't feel that pain. But it was like you're not just fighting the course. I felt like when you go out there now, you're kind of fighting the course, you're fighting the heat, but you're not fighting the pain that you would have got back in the day, and your feet are just not nearly at that level they used to be, man. It was like the one where it was, they would say, run on the white line because your shoes will fall apart, Well, even when I started running, the shoes were made better than that, to where they don't fall apart. But when you're on the pavement, it is 10 degrees hotter than on the white line, So I try and stick to the white line anyway, even if my shoes aren't going to fall apart. But yeah, the pain is just another obstacle, and you got to figure out how to deal with it and push through it. And the more pain you can push through, the more mentally tough that means you are, and the bigger the goals and dreams you can go after, because you've paid some dues to get yourself that mentally tough. Woo woo, push through the pain. Woo woo. I do have a mask. I love that. Might be on for 15 or 16 hours. I'm not kidding you. That sounds like something I would do. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I think it's good. Woo woo. Do you think we live in a world that fears pain too much, and what's the cost of that avoidance? Good question. Yeah, I think we're way too afraid of fear nowadays. I mean, just in my opinion, I try not to. My circle of friends, I try and keep people who are similar to me around me, because I can't afford to be afraid of all this stuff, So I try and keep people who have a lot of courage and take on tough things around me. That's what I'm recommending you. If you have a lot of fears, I recommend that you get friends who don't have all those fears, and because that'll rub off on you. And the other way around too, if you go out, somebody who's scared of everything, including their shadow, that rubs off on you too. Pretty soon you're all afraid of everything. But yeah, pain, fear, you got to be able to push through it. You got to build up a tolerance. Like my tolerance to pain, I'm sure is much higher than the average person. I remember I went in, what did I get done? Oh, because I love Marshall Ulrich. I got my toenails removed so I would not, they were turning black all the time. So I got my three toenails on each side removed. And the doctor goes, you need to take it easy for like a week. You need to not do anything on these toes for a week. And you know what I did? I went out and ran that freaking next day. As soon as I got up in the morning after that, I ran the next day. And then I called the guy up and said, dude, I went and ran the next day. And he goes, that's a record. Taught me how to deal with pain, dealing with having my toenails removed and then going out and running. Anyway, yeah, I try and keep going after it. It's a muscle. That whole dealing with fear, dealing with pain it's a muscle. So you keep going after it, and it gets easier, So the amount of pain I can handle compared to when I first started is like night and day. It's much bigger fear and pain that I can handle. Same with like swimming in the bay and the ocean. That's like I had a huge fear of that. But if you keep jumping in and jumping in and jumping in, pretty soon it's like business as usual after you do it for a few months, you know? Do you ever still feel fear? Yeah, I do still feel fear. I still feel fear. I used to thought people who do really hard things were fearless, right? You know, like really scary things were fearless, but they're not. They just have courage, you know what I mean? They just do it anyway. If they have a fear and you go after it and you attack whatever that goal is, even though you're going to go through that fear, that's called courage. And that's what, you know, that's what they do. And that's what I try to do. If I feel I can't stand fear. If I feel something scares me, I'm going right after it, man. I'm going to take that thing on, that challenge on, because I don't like to be limited. If your comfort zone, you know, you got that like a big circle is your comfort zone, you know, here you are, and then you got this circle. And if you start, you know, if you play it safe all the time and you fear everything and you play it safe, your comfort zone's about this big, and you're not going to do much in life. You know, you're going to do very little. But if you keep pushing out of that comfort zone, keep making yourself nervous, do little things left and right. Whenever something you're afraid of, go do it. Go after it, man. And then your comfort zone starts getting bigger, and then your goals get bigger, and then your life gets bigger. And then it's a good life to live when you got a big life. Woo! You got things to look forward to. You know what I look forward to is the fear that I feel when I got a big goal out there. I will think about that fear every night. It'll wake me up, and I'll go, "Oh my God, I got the right goal this year." If I get where I got too much comfort, it means my goals aren't big enough. They're too safe, you know. So that's what I'm encouraging you. Keep pushing out of that comfort zone. Keep building up that comfort zone bigger, and you will have much bigger goals, much bigger dreams, and a much bigger life. Woo woo. Do you ever feel? Let's see another question here. Okay, I think that was the same question again. Anyway, if there's any other questions about mastering pain and fear? How do you mentally prepare for events where you know it's gonna hurt physically or emotionally? That's interesting. I just do them anyway, period. I know it's gonna hurt. I know I'm gonna have pain. I know I'm gonna, you know, be emotionally, you just do it anyway, you know? Like I've had some bad experiences on Denali. I mean, where I've fallen in a crevice. I've had frostbite so bad my thumb turned black. I'd go to 3 doctors till one told me I was going to keep it. All those doctors were in Alaska. I was smart enough not to come down here and ask about frostbite. And then it was like, yeah, did I have a ton of fear about going back up and climbing that mountain again? Yeah, I took like a year off or 2 years off, and then I went up to climb it again, and the fear was 100 times worse because I hadn't faced it. I let it build up in my mind. But I still went up there and did it. I had to face the fear on a little bit smaller mountain, Mount Shasta up here. I had to keep going up there like every weekend and climbing until I got that fear back at bay, you know. So if you do, you know, the old saying, you know, get back on the horse, you know, if you get bucked off, that's the truth. The quicker you can get back on, if you have something terrible, scary happen to you, traumatic, get back on right away. Otherwise, it builds up way worse in your head, and it's twice as bad to get back on that horse. And I know I've done it, man. But I eventually climbed it again and didn't make it again and fell in crevices again. And anyway, all right, this was great. I think we're about out of time, but mastering pain and fear. Signing off. Let's the lunch pail half hour, woo woo, where we talk about doing the work, blue collar, and never quitting on our dreams or goals. Woo woo, thank you guys, you're wonderful, appreciate it. We'll be back on next Tuesday at 9:30 Pacific time. No, 1:30 Pacific time. Wait, let's try that again. 3:30 Pacific time. Woo, woo. I got a lot of times in my brain. Okay, thanks everybody. Woo, woo.